Hello and welcome back to my reading log for May of 2025. So in May I read 23 volumes in total, which is the exact same I read last month, and yeah, let's get into talking about these manga. On the first I read Stay By My Side After the Rain, Volume 2. I gave this 4 stars. This is the only BL I read this month because I've been saving last month. This is the only BL I read in May because I was saving them all for June. So yeah, June's going to be like a BL heavy month. But yeah, this is the only one I read in May. It was very good. Continuation of the first volume. I think this series is 3 volumes in total. But yeah, it's very cute. We had some drama in this one revolving around one of the characters' mothers and some stuff like that, and obviously it's a very sweet, cute BL series. These two knew each other when they were younger. I can't remember if it was middle school or high school, but they obviously lost contact, and one of them, I don't think it came out in high school, I think it came out after high school. But yeah, they went their separate ways, but then they met up again as adults in a cafe, and obviously he had a crush on him in school, but he never told him. And now they're kind of starting to like become friends again and possibly more. But yeah, I really liked the couple in this one, and it's a sweet story. And obviously we had the drama revolving around the mother of one of the characters. But yeah, I really liked this one. Gave it 4 stars. And on the second, I read the second volume of Diary of a Female Read, which I also gave 4 stars. Obviously, we're continuing things from volume 1. This one is about a girl. She's kind of introverted and she doesn't really stand out, and she doesn't consider herself to be very beautiful or anything. And her mother is a shoujo manga author, and her mother and her brother, I think it's her older brother, want her to have kind of like a shoujo romance, but she's not very interested. But then her brother kind of like, I'm going to help you out in order to find like a romance that you would find in a shoujo manga. But she reluctantly agrees to it, and him and his friend who's in his class, who's this guy on the front, start helping her out and like giving her a makeover, helping her with her confidence and stuff, so she can find a guy that she likes. And this volume is a continuation of this, and obviously there was a guy she quite liked in the first volume who she started to have a little bit of feelings for, and we find out what happens with that in the second volume. There's also like her and the brother's friend go on a practice date to get her used to dating and to get a feel for it, and yeah, it was a very good volume, and yeah, I'm really enjoying this one, and I'm looking forward to reading more. I think this series has recently ended in Betsukomi, so I think it's completed 10 volumes, which isn't overly long, so yeah, looking forward to reading more and seeing where this cute high school romance progresses. Next, on the 3rd, I read Adult Picture Book Volume 3. This is the final volume of Adult Picture Book, and I was kind of disappointed. I mentioned that when I read Volume 2 that I was shocked to find out 3 was the last one, because there was so much story left to tell and so much things left unanswered. And we did get an answer about Kiki's mother. That was kind of gone over and answered, but there was still like other stuff that I would have liked more of. I would have liked to have seen more of the main guy and his best friend and seen more of the dynamic between them. Obviously before he died and he adopted his kid. But yeah, I was just kind of disappointed with the way it ended. The ending wasn't great. I basically would have enjoyed it if the series just went on longer and there was more to it. because I was really enjoying it, but then I don't know if maybe it was cancelled and they had to kind of rush the ending or something, because they kind of resolve the current predicament that they're in, but you never really get to see them grow as a family. It kind of just doesn't show that. I would like to see more of their dynamic as a family and how I would have liked to see them growing closer, and maybe him even falling for his new wife, or maybe even if not falling for her, like maybe making a close friendship with her, and obviously with Kiki. I basically just would have liked the series to have more content and showed more of their family dynamic now that they've gotten all the issues sorted out and they can are comfortable. I would have liked to have just seen more of them evolving as a family, basically, and it didn't give us that. So yeah, this might be one to be on hold. I do need more space with these larger trend volumes in my collection, and if I'm not 100% satisfied with the series and I don't really love it, then it may have to just leave the collection. But yeah, because I would have kept this series prior to this volume, but I was just kind of disappointed. I still gave it 3 stars though. I would probably give the series as a whole a 6 out of 10. And anything below a 7 I kind of need to unhaul. Next, I also read another final volume, and that was Whoever Steals This Book, Volume 3. This one I gave 3.5 stars. This one ended a lot better than what Adult's Picture Book did. We got answers to all the questions as to what was going on with the curse and all the books and who the thief was and why there was so many foxes involved. We also got answers to who Mashiro is and told that story. So everything got answered, and the ending was quite good. I did very enjoy this one. I would say as a whole, I would give this series a 7 out of 10, which means it gets to stay in the collection if it's 7 or higher. So yeah, Whoever Steals This Book is a fantasy series about a girl who lives in a town dedicated to books, and she herself does not like books. But her family owns this big house, and it's like a library, but it's not open to the public due to something that happened in the past. And one day the books stop being stolen, and they get a curse activates, and they get transported into the world of a book, and it's up to Mashiro and the other girl, I can't remember her name, to go and find these books and the thief. And once they find the thief and get the book back, the curse stops. And yeah, but the curse keeps getting activated as more books get stolen, and they keep entering into more books. Yeah, this one was very fun, and I ended up really enjoying it right to the end. This one is also getting a animated film. The trailer for it just came out recently, so I'll be looking forward to probably watching that. There's also a novel. It's based on a novel, and I'm pretty sure the novel is in English too. Yeah, I ended up maybe liking this one, and I liked all the backstory and the stuff you find out about the aunt and stuff like that. Yeah, I would recommend this one if you want a short fantasy that revolves around books. Also, and despite the cover of the volume, this is not a GL, so don't kind of get baited thinking it is, because it's really not. Next, on the 5th, I read The Emperor's Caretaker, Volume 1. I gave this 4 stars. I really like this one. It's a historical, I think it's a shoujo, it might be a josei, where she's the daughter of one of the leading political families, and her father is trying to marry her off to the emperor. So she's put into like this thing where girls come together and the emperor can choose one to be his wife. But there's only one issue with that, and that is that the current emperor is a 5-year-old boy, and all the other candidates are also young girls. And she's 17, and she's like the oldest one there, and she's like, I don't want to be here, I don't want to marry a child. But her father's like, you either have to marry the emperor, you have to marry this dude who's like, I think he's the emperor's uncle, or you have to marry the son of this head of this other family. And she doesn't like this other family because they're kind of rivals. So no options very good. So anyway, she ends up going to this empress selection ceremony, and she plays this instrument. And while she's there, she meets this guy on the cover, and he like kind of catches his attention with her playing and stuff, and the way she's like interacting with the kids, and how well she can like calm them down and stuff. So he later on, after the ceremony, approaches her and is like, do you want to become the emperor's new caretaker and look after him? And she agrees. So she ends up becoming the emperor's caretaker and she's gonna start like looking after him. So yeah, the emperor is like this little boy. And yeah, there seems to be some like political stuff going on at the end where they're trying to like trick and influence each other and stuff. But yeah, this first one was very good. It was very cute, and I'm looking forward to definitely continuing the series. I like the art style too. It was very nice. I also very like the main girl. She was like, she has to obviously obey her father, but she's kind of not. She's not really like giving in to him that much. She's kind of, she knows she has to obey him in the end, but she's kind of fighting against him, saying like, I don't really want to be with any of these people. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and I quite like the guy as well. From you don't really see his true self until more near the end, and yeah, it was very good. I'm very looking forward to reading more. I really enjoyed this one. Next, on the 6th, I read Otaku Vampires Love Bite Volume 2. I gave this one 4 stars. This series is just a bit of fun. It's quirky. Yeah, she's an otaku vampire who lived in Romania with her dad, who's like the most powerful vampire ever. And she becomes a shut-in, and she becomes obsessed with this anime called, I don't remember what the anime's called, but Vampire Cross. And she becomes obsessed with a certain character called Mao, and she like buys a load of merch of him. She decorates her entire room with like his stuff, and then she decides to leave home and move to Japan so she can like find more merch, basically. So she moves into this apartment in Japan next door to this guy who is currently being like harassed by a vampire himself, and he looks exactly like Mao from the anime, so she's kind of drawn to him and starts like forcing herself into his life, basically. So the main character is great. She's very relatable when it comes to like her obsession with like anime and characters and stuff like that. In this volume, introduced a new character. We were introduced to, is his name Victor? Victor, who was like her attendant when she was little, and her father sent Victor to keep an eye on her while she's in Japan. And I quite enjoyed Victor's character. He had some like funny moments. There was also another character who was introduced who I'm not a fan of. But yeah, I really like Victor's character. I think he's a good addition. Especially with him and what's his name? The dude next door. I can't remember his name. And their interactions and stuff there. I very enjoyed this volume. And I'm definitely gonna keep reading this series. It's very good. And next, on the 7th and the 8th, I read Like a Butterfly Volume 8. I gave this one 4 stars too. We're continuing on with this high school romance between two introverts. This one had some drama, and the way it ended was like... Well, I'm kind of going to have to read the next one now because of the way it ended, and it's like... Yeah, I need to know what happens next. Yeah, it's a sweet high school romance between introverts, and it's just a very cute, sweet series. It's Sumo Ishita, so like, same author's A Sign of Affection. I do like the art. So yeah, we're continuing to follow Sui Ren as she kind of comes out of her shell a bit more, and Kawatsumi as she like starts to like develop more feelings and get closer to him, and then the thing at the end happened, and no, yeah, it was a good volume. I just need the next one. Next, on the 9th and the 10th, it also took me a couple of days to read this one. I read The Fire at God School Volume 1, and I gave this 4 stars. I really like this one. It was a very good first volume. It follows a girl who lives at a shrine with her brother, and in this world there are people who have god-like powers, and they are known as Mikos, I think? Himikos. They're known as Himikos. And they have to go to... These Himikos who have these godlike powers have to go to a school and graduate, and once they graduate from the school they're considered to be gods. And each shrine is supposed to have a god, but since the death of her grandmother, our main character's shrine no longer has a god, and her brother has Himiko powers, but he's a shut-in ever since an incident that happened when he was a kid. I don't know what said incident is yet, it hasn't been explained. But he's been a shut-in ever since, but he has like telepathic powers, and he can like move objects with his mind and talk to people through those objects. And so, like, she herself, as far as she's aware, is no Himiko. She doesn't have any powers, but one day, while she's heading to school, a boy in the town who's gone missing, she ends up finding him in the woods, and then stuff goes on, and then next thing she knows, she's got a letter inviting her to come to this god school. And she's like, why am I being invited to this god school? I don't have any powers. But anyway, she starts attending the school, and she's starting to like... She's made some friends and trying to discover if she does actually have any powers by doing these tests, but so far she hasn't been able to achieve anything. There's also this guy here who is a god, and although he doesn't look it, but he is actually only 18 years old. He's recently graduated from the school himself. When I first read this, I thought he was far older, and was quite shocked when he was talking to his assistant. He's like, you yourself are only 18. I was like, what? I thought he was like in his 20s, but no, apparently he's 18. So yeah, she's now attending this school, and I liked the characters. I liked, obviously, all the story and everything that was going on. I like all like the supernatural elements. And I'm very intrigued to find out if she does actually have powers, because there is like kind of hints. And there's like this trip they go on, which was very interesting, and how they were like doing the activities there. Yeah, I very, very like this one. Although, do be aware, if you're picking this up expecting a romance, this is not a romance. It's a supernatural high school kind of action series. But yeah, the Empress was advertising this as a romance when they first brought it out. But in Japan, it's 16 volumes into it, I think, and there's no romance. Just thought I'd put that out there just in case people get disappointed by picking up thinking it is one. But yeah, it is a very good high school action supernatural series, and I'm definitely interested in reading more. The next I read 18 Mao 18 on the 11th. I gave this 3.5 stars. This volume didn't really focus that much on the main story. It was mainly just fighting random Ayakashi. There was some stuff going on with a box. Was it the box that they're searching for? I think they spent most of this volume searching for a box, and we got some more chapters about the villains and stuff like that. Yeah, it was quite a good volume. My favourite volumes of Mao are the ones that focus more on the main story, but I do like these ones that focus just on random demons as well. It does remind me of Inuyasha, just in a different time period, and the main character is Mao is not anything like Inuyasha. His personality is completely different. But yeah, continuing to read through Mao. 12th, I read nothing, because that's the day Jet was at the vet for her worming. On the 13th, I read Wolf Girl and Black Prince 9. This one I gave 3.5 stars. Yeah, there was one chapter in this which I really didn't enjoy. But the rest of it was fine. I like the chapters where he was looking after his friend's dog, and he was really pretending that he didn't really care, but he was actually really loved this dog and loved taking care of it, and was kind of disappointed when he had to give it back. But yeah, it was quite cute. Yeah, I like the chapters with the dog the best. And the chapter with Sen and her issue was fine too, but there was one chapter in here which I wasn't really a fan of, and that was the chapter where Erica supposedly had gained weight, even though she looks no different. And she wants to try and get back to her original weight, and they're calling her saying that she's overweight and obese and everything, but she looks perfectly skinny. So yeah, I wasn't really a fan of that chapter, but the rest of it was okay. And the way Kyoka treated her in that chapter was very horrible as well. But yeah, other than that, I quite like the volume. I like the stuff with the dog the best though. Next, on the 14th, I read A Brief Moment of Ichika, Volume 3. I gave this one 3 stars. This is another final volume that I read. This is it's a college romance, but it's a sad one. Both our main characters have terminal illnesses, and they both have short life expectancies. Our main character was diagnosed. It never says what illness the main girl has, but she was diagnosed with it 3 years ago and given 2 years to live. But she's currently outlived her expectation because she's now 3 years gone since she was diagnosed. And her college professor, who she fancies and she's quite drawn to, he suddenly quits one day from his job and kind of disappears, and she finds out that he also has a terminal illness and he only has 6 months to live. So it's about the two of them kind of coming together despite that, knowing that their time together is going to be short, and just wondering whether they should do it or whether it's not worth it, or whether they should be getting close to each other despite the fact they're not going to be together long and stuff like that. But yeah, this was the final volume. It ended how you would expect this type of series to end. But yeah, I think overall I would probably get this, again, I'll probably get the series a 6 out of 10, so this is another one that will probably be reading the collection. I'd say I quite like the story. I'm perfectly fine with reading these are like emotional, hard-hitting reads. I'm perfectly fine with that. But I just don't think it's good enough to keep in my collection, nor do I think it's the best version of this type of story that I've read. I think I've read better ones. So yeah, anyway, this one was fine. But it will probably be reading the collection. Next, on the 15th, I read volume 7 of Nina the Starry Bride. I gave this 4 stars. This is the first volume past where the anime ended. So this was like new content because I watched the anime before reading volume 6. So that one I kind of knew what was going to happen. But this one's a very Nina-centric volume. Set and Azul or Berry in this volume at all. And there's also this new character who's introduced who's quite interesting. And Nina is in like a situation that I won't spoil. And she's kind of having to find a way to get herself out of that situation with the help of this guy. He's kind of like an inventor, sort of scientisty type person, and he's kind of intrigued by Nina and her like blue eyes and starts hanging around her. But yeah, she has to like deal with this sort of place and situation she's been put in and find a way to get out, basically. And it was a very good volume, and I'm interested to see how things are going to progress and how the situation is actually going to be resolved. But yeah, still really like the series. I'm definitely going to be continuing. Next, after this point, I was finished reading everything that I got from my previous haul, and I was waiting for my next haul to come in. It was delayed, so it was taking its time to get here. But during that bout of not having any new volumes to read, I managed to get to read some of the volumes that I've had in the collection a bit longer and just haven't got around to reading it. There's not a lot in my collection that I haven't read, but there is a few things. So I managed to get first read on the 16th. I read Mars Volume 2, which I gave 4 stars. A lot happened in this volume. When people say older shoujo is a lot more dramatic, they weren't lying. Because within this one volume, there was like, I won't really spoil anything, but there was like 2 instances of one certain thing happening. And then there was an instance of another thing happening. And then there was also, we got to learn a bit more about Ray as past, and he talked about that a bit. And then there's this thing goes on, and yeah, this was a very dramatic volume. There was a lot of like hard hitting and stuff going on and happening. Definitely look up the trigger warnings for this series because this volume had quite a thick few of them. So yeah, the amount of stuff that happened in this volume is more than what happens in some whole series, and it was all just in this one volume. But yeah, Mars it's a very well-known, well-loved high school romance between a quiet artist and a delinquent like motorbike racer. It's considered one of the like pioneers of like good girl, bad boy romances. And obviously he drives like motorbikes and he races motorbikes, and she's quite reserved, and she's in the art club, and he asks her for directions one day and she kind of runs away but drops a picture, which then he tries to return to her, but she just tells him to keep it. And then she doesn't usually like that kind of person who's like a delinquent and like outgoing, but she kind of gets to know him, and she starts to fall for him, and yeah, things start happening. But the things this dude is kind of willing to do and the lengths he's willing to go are kind of abnormal. And I'm like, this dude must have had a very messed up past for him to just think about doing these things without batting an eye. So I'm interested to know more about his past and why he thinks that it's just completely normal to like want to bash someone's head in. So yeah, definitely interested to read more of this. It's definitely very dramatic and very interesting. The series is never boring, that's for sure. And next up, on the 17th, I read the 4th volume of Daytime Shooting Star. This one I've had this in my collection probably longer than all the others I haven't read. Still haven't got around to finishing it, but this is 3.5 stars I gave it. This is Miki Yamamori, author In the Queen Moon at Dusk. And it features a girl who's recently moved from the country to the city and is living with, I think it's her uncle, possibly her cousin, I'm not 100% sure, but she meets a guy who helps her out when she gets lost, but which doesn't have a very good sense of direction. And this guy turns out to be her uncle/cousin's friend, and also her new teacher at her new high school. And she kind of starts to develop some feelings for him, but there's also, at the school, there's this classmate who also kind of starts developing feelings for her. And there's kind of a love triangle there with the three of them. I do know which one she picks in the end. I have known for a while. Not that I looked it up, I just saw discussions on it and found out. Not that I'm bothered that I know who she ends up with. Knowing the end of a manga or a book before I start reading it does not bother me. I'm fine with spoilers. I'm weird like that. So yeah, I went into the series already knowing which guy she was going to pick in the end. But yeah, what happened in this specific volume? There was a festival, I think. And some drama. Yeah, was this the one with the festival in it? No, I think the previous volume was with the festival in it. Oh yeah, they went to the aquarium, I think. That's what happened in this volume. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm going to keep reading it. Well, I have the whole thing. I just need to get on with reading the rest. Anyway, after I read Daytime Shooting Star, I read... Right, I had 2 days where I didn't read anything because the new main story chapters for Love and Deep Space came out, and I was reading those instead of reading manga. And then I read Prettier on the 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd and 24th. And I gave the first volume 3 stars and all the rest 3.5 stars. So yeah, I read the whole thing. I had already watched the anime for Prettier, which is why I wanted to read the manga. And it is quite a bit different to the anime. I have to say that I did prefer the anime. Not to say the manga's bad, because I did still enjoy the manga. It's just, I'll probably give the manga a 7 and the anime an 8. I just preferred some of the storylines from the anime, and like Sasame's character and his storyline I think was better in the anime. But Prettier is a magical girl series, but unlike most magical girl series which follows like a group of magical girls, this one only follows one. Her name's Himino, and she is the Prettier. And she has 7 Rife Knights, and these Rife Knights have different powers. And their job is to protect Rithei, which is like the source of all life. And there's this person called the Princess of Disaster who's trying to steal all the Rithei, and they need the help of the Pretia, who can create new Rithei in order to, like, save the world, basically. So Himino ends up being the Pretia, so they find her and they recruit her. And so instead of having multiple magical girls with different powers, we just have Himino and the 7 knights. And she can preach with these knights, whereas these knights kind of go inside of her. Not in that way. And she gains the power of that knight. So if, say, Hiate is the Wind Knight, Sasame is the Knight of Sound, Kei is the Knight of Light, Go is the Knight of Fire, Manon is the Knight of Ice, Hajime is the Knight of Water, and Shin is the Knight of Plants. So whatever knight she has inside of her, she gains the powers of that knight. And yeah, she has to fight against the Princess of Disaster. But it's also a little bit... I don't think the manga had as many dark themes as what the anime did. But there is themes of loneliness and Himino feeling as if she doesn't fit in with her new family because her dad's recently gotten remarried to this, like, very rich woman who has 2 daughters. And so now they live in this, like, big, massive mansion with rows of grounds, and she doesn't really get on with her stepmother or her stepsisters. And so she feels kind of left out and like she doesn't belong, and she just wants to feel needed and like she belongs somewhere. So there's a lot more themes of that in the manga than there was in the anime. Himino wasn't as, like, lonely or feeling as if she didn't fit in as much in the anime. That was more her sister. But yeah, the stuff with Sasame and stuff, it was completely different. And I said I preferred his storyline in the anime. But yeah, obviously it was quite a lot different because there's all the stuff that happened in the anime with her sister and all that never happened in the manga. And the stuff that happened in the end of the manga with her stepmother, none of that happened in the anime. So yeah, I say both stories as different entities are good. I just think the anime is a bit better. But yeah, I did enjoy reading the manga as well. Obviously it has that older sort of art style. I'm not sure what one came first. I think the anime was in development at the same time the manga was publishing, so I don't know if that's why they ended up so different, because they kind of became their own things. But yeah, all in all, I enjoyed reading it. I think these are XYB copies because they do have plastic wrapped around them, but that doesn't bother me. There's also some nice colour pages. Okay, next, sci-fi arrived after this point, and I got back to reading new releases of new volumes that I've just entered into the collection. So I didn't get any more of Mars or Daytime Shooting Star read, but I will get more read at some point. This month I'm mainly focusing on reading through BL. I currently finished what was in what I had available to me, so I had to like do an order and get some more in ready, and that came today. So, which I only ordered some of it yesterday, so it came quite fast. But yeah, the rest of May I was reading some of the stuff that came with sci-fi. So on the 25th I read the final volume of 15 Minutes Before We Very Date. Obviously another final volume. I give this series probably I gave this volume 4 stars. I think I'll give the series an 8 out of 10 in total. It's just very cute, very sweet. It is high school romance between 2 childhood friends who live next door to each other, and one day they're just like, we're in high school now, neither of us have ever had a partner, why don't we just date each other? And then they're like, yeah, sure, why not? And they start going out And it's very cute. It's just very, very short chapters about their different firsts and time they spent together, and then there's some stuff later on about talking about their futures and stuff, but yeah, I won't show the back cover because it's kind of spoilery. But yeah, it's just a very sweet, cute high school romance. There's not very... Yeah, I really like the art style too. But yeah, it was very good. Not very much to say about it though, because it was just like a very cute high school romance. Next, on the 26th and the 27th, it took me a couple of days to get through this one. Lonely Castle in the Mirror, Volume 5. I gave this 5 stars, and in total I'd probably give the series like a 9 out of 10. The ending was slightly different to what it was in the film, but only slightly, because I already watched the film, so I kind of knew how it ended, but we did get more in the manga than what we did in the film. It went a bit more into the characters' lives in the manga than what we got in the film, and there the ending was very good. There's some like twists that you kind of might have been expecting or might not have been expecting. But yeah, this is one of my favourite seinens. It's fantastic. It follows a group of kids who aren't going to school for one reason or another, and they're brought into this castle beyond their mirrors. Their mirrors start glowing, they step through them, they end up in this castle. And there's a wolf girl there who tells them they have a year in this castle to find this key, and if they find the key, they get to make a wish. So whoever finds the key gets to use it and make a wish. So all the kids are kind of interested in making a wish, but they also, if they make the wish, they lose access to the castle, so they all kind of agree to wait. If they're going to use the key, wait until the final day to use it, so they can spend as much time as possible in the castle. Because they all have their own reasons for not going to school. And, like, the main character is bullied quite badly. And there's, like, you get to go through, like, all the reasons of all the other characters. Especially in this final volume where it's kind of going through all their lives. But yeah, this was a very, really good series. I would highly recommend it, especially if you like drama with some fantasy, not too much of a fantasy element, but obviously there is that fantasy element there because they're in a castle beyond a mirror. But it's more like coming of age drama and like coming to terms with their like what is keeping them away from school. But yeah, it was highly fantastic series. The film's okay too, but obviously the manga's far better. There's also a novel. This is based off a novel, and I will be probably picking up the novel. Anyway, 3 to go. On the 29th, on the 28th I didn't read anything. But on the 29th I read Sweet for Sweets and Foreigners, Volume 2, which is another final volume. I gave this one 3.5 stars. This is a josei romance about a woman who works for this company that makes sweets, and she's in sales, but she wants to be in the design team so she can design her own sweets. And this guy has come to like make it so his company's like joining up with their company to make like sweets that can be sold in both Japan and France because he's French. And she's picked to be on his team and to like help him come up with sweets and stuff, and she like they form kind of like a close friendship because they both really like sweets and they both like going out and eating sweets, and yeah, she sort of gains a crush on him from there. It's a very short one, obviously it's only 2 volumes, and the ending was fine. Like, obviously it was going to be slightly rushed because it is just 2 volumes long, but yeah, it was quite a nice ending. I was fine with it. But yeah, it was just a very short, sweet 2 volume josei romance revolving around sweets. And for the last 2 days of the month I read Smut. So on the 30th I read Seduced by the Demon King, Essential Rebirth, which I gave 4 stars. This one is quite smutty. This one is not disappointing. This one is not disappointing as a steamship title. There is certainly smut in here. We follow a tired, exhausted office lady who doesn't like her job, who's like very unhappy in her life. And then this demon just appears on a balcony out of nowhere. It's like, you are the reincarnation of my nemesis, the saint. And I want to make your life utterly miserable. And she's like, my life's already utterly miserable. So he's like, okay then, I'm going to make your life bliss and make you the happiest person ever. And then I'm going to make you utterly miserable. And she's like, well, I can't possibly get any more miserable than I am now, so sure. And then he has sex with her. And it goes from there. Yeah, I did really like this one, actually. It was very good. I liked the smut. The story was quite interesting. So yeah, definitely going to be continuing this one. It is definitely one of the smuttiest steamship titles. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. So if you're looking for a steamship title that isn't disappointing in the smut front, pick this one up. And then last, I read on the 31st A Suitable Fetish 2, which I read. Gave 3.5 stars. This one is very limited on the smut. Despite the subject matter being about fetishes, there's nothing very explicit or... well, they are doing it, but it's not really showing it. It's more like it shows them getting prepared and then it kind of just fades to black. So the sex scenes in this one aren't very explicitly shown. They're more just skimmed past. Despite the fact that the subject matter is all about sexual fetishes. And she really likes doing different sex positions. And this guy's a sadist. And then there's another guy who used to be a porn star. And then there's the boss has something going on with a teddy bear. And I'm not sure what, because that hasn't been explained yet. But he's on the cover of Volume 3, so I'm thinking it's going to be explained in that one. And I hope the things that he's doing with these teddy bear aren't weird. Because they very well could be. But yeah, I enjoyed this volume. I'd say this one is not all that steamy, despite the subject matter, but I do still enjoy the story to it. And this volume, we continue on with her trying to convince him to do different sex positions with her. So yeah. And there was also some involvement with the other dude as well. This dude, the ex-porn star. But yeah, that's everything I read for the month of May. And I hope you enjoyed the video. And I say June is going to be a BL heavy month. Because although I finished reading everything I had, I've got a big pile to get through of like 8 more series, which should be enough to finish at least the majority of the prompts from the readathon I'm doing. So yeah. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll be back with a haul probably the end of the month, because I've still got quite a bit to get through. Obviously that BL and will be included in it, and then another reading log next month to go over all the BL that I read this month. And I'll see you then, and bye bye.